We got Chuck Baldwin. He is the presidential candidate for the Constitution Party. Chuck, I'm looking at your website, and you mentioned the globalists earlier, and I want to get into that. What do you mean by the globalists? And it says the globalists are after our sovereignty, our freedom, and our national independence. Who are the globalists?
I think the globalists are the power elite in both parties and in part of the corporate world who desire to merge America into a trilateral entity. Call it the North American Community or the North American Union. The CFR blueprint is already out there. You can go to the CFR webpage and you can look at it. It's already there for everyone to read. And we are following that blueprint exactly as it's written. The desire is that by the year 2010, that there will be in place this trilateral entity called the North American Community, which would integrate the United States, Canada, and Mexico into a tripartite economic system, patterned after the European Union that already exists over in Europe. They even have their own currency over there. As you know, it's called the euro. Well, they want to replicate that here in the Western Hemisphere, and they have a currency in mind for us. It's called the Amero, and it's already planned. And once this thing is established, we're not going to have a dollar. There won't be a peso. There won't be three individual currencies. There won't be three individual economies. There'll be one economy. There'll be one currency. There'll be one economic entity, and that's the North American Community. The Commerce Secretary in the United States, Guterres, and his two counterparts in Mexico and Canada formed the head of this institution. President Bush signed the agreement in May of 2005 with his counterparts in Mexico and Canada. It's already set up. It's already established. They're building the NAFTA superhighway to come out of Mexico and the United States all the way up to the Canadian border to transport cheap Chinese goods into Mexico, bypassing the longshoremen in Long Beach, California, and Los Angeles, California, and using the labor, the cheap labor down there in Mexico to bring the Mexican trucks, Mexican goods, and Chinese goods into America. It's the free flow of goods and people between the three countries is all a part of the agenda. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, why President Bush refuses to close the border. Why he refuses to seal the border against illegal immigration is because they envision an open country between the three, that we're one, we're morphed or merged into one entity. It's already happened in Europe. I mean, it's undeniable. It's already happened, and it's happening here. And that's who I mean as the globalist. And I believe that agenda is un-American. Yea, it's anti-America. It sacrifices our sovereignty. It sacrifices our independence. Something has to give. The Constitution is the thing that's going to give. The Bill of Rights is the thing that's going to give way. The personal protections that we enjoy under this form of government are going to be replaced with a governing system that is universal. And so I think that's why I say, Tom, that I think in 2008 we're looking at the precipice of what George Herbert Walker Bush back in his administration identified as the, quote, New World Order. That's not my term. That's his term. And I'm saying when Chuck Baldwin becomes president of the United States, the New World Order comes crashing down. You know, we're getting out of NAFTA. We're getting out of the WTO. We're going to, the FTAA is dead on arrival. We're going to stop the construction of the NAFTA superhighway. We're going to get out of the SPP in the North American Union, and we're going to start looking out for the interests of the United States of America. Again, we're in simple terms, we're going to put America first again.
I want to ask you about the Amero because I occasionally get emails forwarded to me about this, and I'm looking online. We've actually discussed this before. This proposed this idea that we're careening towards an economic union like the European Union.
Right.
And I'm looking at Wikipedia here. I jokingly refer to it as the source of all knowledge and truth.
Yeah, right.
And it's got a couple of links here. One to a press conference from President Bush, and then another with let's see who this is here. SPP.gov.
Right.
Anyway. It pretty much says that nobody in the government has ever advocated a North American Union or the Amero, and that the Amero's origin may have started from somebody making a novelty coin as a joke.
Right, yeah. Well, That's the way they operate, isn't it? They deny and deny and deny until it becomes a reality. Then all of a sudden, overnight, oops, here it is. It's undeniable. It's undeniable. And for them to try to continue to deny it is absolutely nonsensical. We have, videotapes of...
What's the evidence, though?
We have videotapes of elected officials in Canada that are on the floor of the Canadian Parliament or legislature up there, and they are talking about the NAFTA superhighway, and they're talking about the merger of our country with the United States and Mexico. They're talking about this union. I mean, what in the world were the three presidents doing in New Orleans just a few weeks ago in their summit with the SPP summit? They've already signed the agreement of the SPP, the Security and Prosperity Partnership, which is the precursor of the North American community. It's following the same pattern as what happened in Europe. If you remember your history, Tom, you remember that whenever they started this, they said the same thing in Europe. They told the nations of Europe, "Oh, this is not a union. This is just a summit. This is just a confab. We just want free trade." That's how they sold it. Well, first it became the European Community. Actually, it was a European something else first, and then it was a European Community. And then it became the European Union. And now you've got the European Union and the Euro and the united currency and the united economy in Europe. And it's the same thing. They're denying it over here. I suggest, Tom, if you have not already done so, and to your listeners, go get Dr. Jerry Corsi's book, The Late Great USA. If you have not read that, you must go. If you don't read any book in 2008 beside the Bible, go read Jerry Corsi's book, The Late Great USA. He has the documentation, he has the facts and the names, the dates, the places, the times, the events. I mean, this is now undeniable. For the government to continue to say that this doesn't exist, it's a conspiracy, it just proves that they are trying to bring this about surreptitiously without the knowledge or consent of the American people. And the American people should be outraged. Lou Dobbs is the one network television personality in America today that is really exposing this. If you've watched Lou Dobbs with any regularity, you have seen him talk about this over and over and over again. So this is not new, and it's certainly not hidden. It's just that the federal government and some members of the media would have the American people to believe that it's not happening, but it certainly is.
There are different levels at which countries will interact with each other economically. There's an economic community, which is what the European Union used to be. There's a free trade area, which we have with NAFTA. But just because we have a free trade area in NAFTA doesn't mean that we're inevitably headed towards an economic union. And the European Union, as it evolved from what it started with is the European Coal and Steel Community into the European Community and then the European Union, that was all done openly. Everybody knew what was going on, and there was a stated goal, and they said, we want to do this. There were people that said, well, it might not be a good idea. But there wasn't a conspiracy there. It was a pretty open process that happened with the EU. And it happened over, it really started at the end of World War II and just culminated in the last decade.
And I think the difference is because of the very spirit of America and the very fact that we have a Declaration of Independence. There's no Declaration of Independence in Europe. There's no Constitution as we know it in Europe. There's no Bill of Rights as we know it in Europe. We are an independent sovereign state that takes our independence very, very seriously. We're celebrating tomorrow. The greatest holiday in America is the Independence Day, and the great sacrifice that our founding fathers gave for us to give us a free land, an independent nation. So we historically have held independence in high esteem and high regard. The idea that somehow or another you're going to come in and take America's independence and sovereignty and you're going to publicize that, you're going to come out and say, hey, we want to integrate Mexico, United States, and Canada into one hemispheric government. And you come out openly and you state that agenda, and the American people are going to rise up against it. The only way this thing can succeed is to keep it as quiet as possible, as long as possible. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's what we're doing, is we're trying to expose this agenda. I'm the only candidate at the national level that's even talking about it. I'm the only candidate that's even acknowledging that it exists. And I'm trying to wave the flag of warning. I'm trying to tell the American people that our independence, our national sovereignty is at stake. And if we don't stop it now, by 2010, it's going to be too late. And I really believe that this is the defining issue in 2008. And again, I'm the only guy on the national level that's talking about it.